I stood in the middle of the Four Seasons Denver ballroom, my hands trembling as I held the microphone, staring straight at the man I had loved for 25 years. In front of 80 guests, he had just announced that he wanted a divorce, that 25 years was enough, that he needed a younger woman, and that I had to move out of the apartment tomorrow. The apartment my parents had given me, not him. "Logan," I said, my voice echoing through the suffocating silence of the room. "Do you remember our wedding day? You promised to love me until your last breath, and now you're throwing me out of my own home?" I turned to look at my mother-in-law, Marjorie Pierce, sitting there with a triumphant smile. She thought she'd won. She thought I was just a gentle, obedient wife. But she was wrong. I took a deep breath, then faced everyone again. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said calmly, almost too calmly, "before you leave, I have a little gift, a special gift to celebrate our 25th anniversary." I signaled to the technician. The big screen behind us lit up, and what appeared on it made Logan Pierce's face turn pale. It was a video of him with a blonde woman no older than 28. In it, he promised he'd divorce me to marry her. And worse, it showed him transferring money from our joint account to hers. I looked straight at him, my voice no longer trembling. "Logan," I said clearly, each word sharp as glass, "you wanted someone younger? There she is. But unfortunately, the house is still mine." The room erupted in murmurs, and I simply smiled, because I knew that night everything changed. That was the night I stopped being Camille Pierce, the quiet, obedient wife. That was the night I became Camille Turner, the woman who stood up to reclaim what was hers. And that story began 3 weeks earlier. If you've ever wondered what turns a gentle woman into someone who can silence an entire room with the truth, stay with me. Because what happened in those 3 weeks will make you question everything. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more real-life stories of betrayal, strength, and awakening like this one. 3 weeks before our anniversary, I woke up at 3 a.m., thirsty. The apartment was dark. Next to me, empty. Logan wasn't there. I was about to fall back asleep when I heard his voice coming from the living room. He was on the phone. His tone was strange. Excited, fast, intense. A tone I hadn't heard from him in years. I tiptoed closer to the door, my heart pounding. Something was wrong. I could feel it. "We have to do this right," Logan whispered. "She mustn't suspect anything." Then another voice spoke through the phone, cold and sharp. "Of course, son. I've arranged everything. The party will be the perfect moment." I froze. It was Marjorie Pierce's voice. His mother. What were they plotting? And why? Right before our 25th anniversary? The wooden floor creaked. I panicked, hurried back to bed, and pretended to sleep. My heart was racing so fast I could almost hear it. Logan walked in, quiet as a cat. He lay down beside me, but his body was tense. He didn't sleep. I knew. He was calculating something. The next morning, things got even stranger. Logan woke up earlier than usual, looking unusually cheerful. He kissed my cheek. His cologne filled the air. "Camille, my love," he said too cheerfully, "let's pick a restaurant for our anniversary dinner today." I want everything to be perfect. Perfect. That word felt like a knife. In 25 years, Logan had never cared about a single anniversary. I had always been the one to plan, book, prepare, carry it all. And him? He just showed up and criticized. "Sure," I said softly, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Where do you want to celebrate?" "Four Seasons Denver," he replied immediately, as if rehearsed. "It's already booked. 80 guests, friends, colleagues, I want everyone there." 80 guests. I looked at him. Logan hated parties, hated crowds. He used to say they were a waste of time and money. And now he wanted 80 people? Something was very wrong. When he left, I stood by the window, watching the gray Denver sky. October winds were crisp. Leaves carpeted the ground in gold. Everything was withering. Like our marriage. 25 years. a quarter of a century. I met Logan in college. I was a dreamy accounting student who wanted to become a book editor. He was confident, ambitious, and striking, the kind of man who made everyone look up when he entered a room. He courted me with red roses, surprise dates, and promises of a complete future. "You'll be my wife," he said when he proposed at Washington Park, beneath the blooming cherry blossoms. "We'll have kids, a big house, and live happily ever after." But that big family never came. Year 1, we waited. Year 2, we sought help. Year 3, IVF. Nothing was wrong with either of us, yet the miracle never came. Then Marjorie began her sugar-coated poison. "Logan needs a child to carry on the family name," she would say. "A man like my son deserves a full family." A full family. It sounded like a sentence. From then on, Logan changed. He worked late, spoke less, smiled less, and I gave up my writing dreams for a steady accounting job, to keep us stable. But to him, it was never enough. One morning, Logan forgot his phone on the table. The screen lit up with a reminder. "Call N, 11 a.m. N? I frowned. That name had never appeared before. I picked up the phone, my hands trembling. In 25 years, I'd never gone through his phone. I'd always trusted him, but this time, my gut didn't let me ignore it. "What are you doing?" His voice startled me from behind. I dropped the phone instantly. Nothing," I stammered. "Your phone lit up. I saw a reminder." Logan snatched it back. For a brief second, I caught a flicker of panic in his eyes. "Oh, that's Sanchez," he said quickly. "A colleague in Seattle. We have to discuss a project." But I knew he was lying. His left eye twitched, an old tell every time he lied. And Sanchez started with S, not N. He had just lied, clumsily. After he left, I stood in silence. The apartment my parents had given me as a wedding gift felt colder than ever. That day, my father's words echoed in my mind. "Daughter, no matter how much you love, always keep a place that's yours." Never depend completely on anyone. I used to think he was overly cautious. Now I knew. He simply saw what I hadn't. I opened Logan's laptop. He'd never changed the password, at least not before. I typed the day we met, 15th of April, 2000. Wrong. His birthday, wrong. His mother's birthday, wrong. Then it hit me. Try our wedding date. Reversed. 2000-06-20. Click. It opened. And what I saw made me sick. Search history. How to divorce with joint property. Wife's rights in property division. Legal tricks to split assets. How to keep the apartment after divorce. All within the last 2 weeks. I staggered back, shaking, breath shallow. He was planning a divorce and trying to steal the apartment. My apartment. I paused, looking straight at the audience. You know that feeling, don't you? That moment when the person who once promised to love you forever starts plotting to take the only thing you have left. That's not just betrayal. That's the death of trust. And believe me, when trust dies, another version of you is born. My phone rang. It was Jocelyn Park, my best friend. "Camille, you won't believe this," Jocelyn said, voice trembling. "I just saw Logan at Tyson's Galleria with a young woman." They were looking at rings. She hugged him, laughing like she owned the world. My throat tightened. What did she look like? Maybe 30, blonde, stylish, but empty inside. They weren't hiding it either. "Are you okay, Camille?" "I'm fine," I whispered, though my chest ached. "Thank you." I hung up, and for the first time in years, I let myself cry, not because I was weak, but because it hurt, so deep it burned. 25 years. I had given up my dreams, endured sarcasm, carried the weight so he could shine, but to him, I was just an old coat. Easy to discard, easy to replace. That evening, Logan came home with a bouquet of red roses and an expensive box of chocolates. "For my one and only beloved wife," he said, kissing me. One and only. How ironic. I looked into his eyes, the same eyes I once trusted. "Logan, we need to talk," I said, "about our future." He stiffened, turned on the TV, pretending to focus. "There's nothing to talk about. Everything's fine. Don't ruin the mood. The anniversary's coming up. Everyone will be there. Let's talk after the party, okay?" After the party, meaning he had a plan. "All right," I nodded softly, masking my voice. But inside, I was ice. If he was planning to humiliate me in front of everyone, then I'd make sure he'd never forget that night. That night, while Logan slept, I lay staring at the ceiling. A plan began to take shape. If he wanted a memorable party, I'd give him one, just not the way he expected. The next morning, I called the only person I trusted. "Rachel," I said as soon as she picked up, "I need your help. And I need it now." Rachel Ahmed and I had known each other since college. She was the kind of friend you could call at 3 in the morning and she'd show up without a word. Rachel was now a divorce and property dispute attorney. And more importantly, she'd lived through exactly what I was facing. 5 years ago, her husband had cheated on her with his secretary. Rachel lost everything: the house, the money, even temporary custody of her child. Not because she was wrong, but because she wasn't prepared. Back then, she once told me during a drunken night, he planned ahead. I trusted blindly, and I paid for it. But Rachel rose again. She fought for 3 years, reclaimed everything, and became one of Denver's best divorce lawyers. Through it all, I stood by her, lending money, holding her while she cried, babysitting when she had court. Now, it was her turn to help me. We met at a small cafe in Capitol Hill, far from the places Logan Pierce usually visited. Rachel was already there, a thick file in front of her, eyes sharp and serious. "Camille," she said, taking my hand, firm, warm. "Tell me everything, from the beginning. Don't leave out a single detail," I told her, about the late-night call, Logan's sudden change, the browser history, the blonde woman at the mall, the 80-guest party. Rachel listened, jotting notes occasionally. When I finished, she stayed quiet for a moment, then looked at me with an expression I'd never seen, a mix of fury and resolve. "Camille, he's planning what we call a public humiliation divorce," she said. "He's going to announce in front of everyone that he wants to leave you, make you look pitiful, abandoned, and the goal is—" "What goal?" "To shame you so much that you'll sign anything just to make it stop." Rachel opened the folder. "I'm guessing his mother's part of this too." I nodded. "Marjorie Pierce came to my house. Asked about the apartment papers, said she was updating her will for the nieces and nephews." Rachel gave a bitter smile. "They want the apartment, and they think you'll just surrender." "But the apartment is mine," I said, voice trembling. "My parents gave it to me before the marriage." "Exactly." Rachel tapped the table. "Under Colorado law, any asset gifted before marriage is separate property. It's not divided in a divorce, as long as you have proof." I exhaled. "I do. Everything's in the safe at home." "Good. But listen to me carefully." Rachel leaned closer. "They're preparing. If you don't want to play their game, you'll need to prepare, and you'll have to play better." "What do I need to do?" Rachel pulled a blank sheet and began to write. "First, proof of infidelity. Not words, not stories, photos, videos, texts, solid evidence they can't deny. How could I possibly—" "Private investigator." She slid a business card toward me. "Marcus Holt, one of the best I've worked with. Discreet, professional, efficient." I looked at the card, my hand trembling. "Second, financial overview. Bank accounts, debts, investments, everything. He could be moving money, hiding assets. I don't know his account passwords. Do you have access to joint accounts?" Are paper statements mailed to your home? Yes. We have a joint account at Wells Fargo. Perfect. Get the last 6 months of statements. Print them out. I'll review them. Third, and most important, don't let him know you know. Act normal. Agree with everything. Pretend to be excited about the party. For the next week, you need to be the best actress of your life. I swallowed hard. I don't know if I can do that. Rachel squeezed my hand tighter this time. Remember 5 years ago? When I lost everything? What did you tell me? I remembered. I'd said, Rachel, you're stronger than you think. You just need time to realize it. Now it's your turn, Rachel said, her eyes glistening. You're stronger than you think, Camille, and I'll help you prove it. If you think you're too smart to be deceived, remember this. Betrayers don't win because they're smarter. They win because they start preparing first. From this moment, I decided to do what they'd never expect. Prepare. And prepare better. That night, I called Marcus Holt. His voice was deep, steady, the kind of voice that had seen too many ugly truths to be shocked anymore. Mrs. Pierce, he said after hearing my story, I'm sorry for what you're going through. Can you help me? I'll need your husband's full name, workplace, and a recent photo. If you have details on the woman, name, workplace, places they frequent, even better. I know he often eats lunch around LODO and works near Union Station. That's enough. I'll begin surveillance tomorrow. You can expect the first report in 48 hours. Mr. Holt, I hesitated, in your career, do you see this often? Silence for a moment. Then he sighed. Too often, Mrs. Pierce. But if it's any comfort, of all the wives I've helped, you sound the calmest. Really? Yes, but I also sense the deepest pain. That means you truly loved him. I'm sorry you have to go through this. When the call ended, I sat alone in the dark. Logan still wasn't home. He was probably with the blonde woman, laughing, dreaming of a future that didn't include me. I stared at my wedding ring, gold still gleaming under the lamp, but it felt like a shackle. I hadn't taken it off. Not yet, but soon. 2 days later, Marcus sent his first report. I opened the email, hands shaking. Inside was a PDF with over 20 photos. Logan and a blonde woman. She looked 28, maybe 29, strikingly beautiful, the kind of beauty that costs money to maintain. They were in an upscale restaurant. He held her hand. They kissed. In public. Unashamed. At the bottom, Marcus's note. Natalie Dean, 28, marketing executive at a tech startup, meeting 3 to 4 times per week. Primary locations, restaurants, hotels. Video captured entering Brown Palace yesterday afternoon, remained for 3 hours. Ongoing surveillance. I stared at the photo of Logan kissing her, the same way he used to look at me 25 years ago. Suddenly, the sorrow melted away. Anger took its place. That evening, Logan came home with a box of expensive sushi. Camille, sweetheart, he said. I got your favorite. I smiled. The smile Rachel had taught me. The naive, unsuspecting wife's smile. Thank you. That's very thoughtful of you. He sat down, turned on the TV. The party's in 5 days. Are you excited? Oh, yes, I replied. And it was true, though not for the same reason. I'm very excited. My friends, your boss, colleagues, college friends, everyone will be there. Mom's even preparing a speech. I bit my lip. She wants to give a speech? Yeah. She said she has something important to announce. Logan glanced at me. By the way, where do we keep the apartment documents? There it was, the question I'd been waiting for. In the safe, I said evenly. Why? Oh, Mom asked. She said we should make copies, just in case. I'll get them for you, I said. Tomorrow. I'm tired tonight. Logan nodded, satisfied, like he'd already won. When he slept, I opened the safe, photographed every document, and sent them to Rachel. Everything's here, I texted. Deed in my name since 1999, 1 year before marriage. Rachel replied immediately. Perfect. They're finished. Now we just wait for them to dig their own grave. The next day, Marcus sent more evidence. This time, text messages. Somehow, he had accessed Logan's phone. I didn't ask how and didn't want to know. The full conversation between Logan and Natalie Dean was there in black and white. Logan, don't worry. The anniversary party is when I'll end it with her. After that, we're free, Natalie. Promise? I don't want to be the side woman anymore. I want to be your wife, Logan. Promise, baby. As for the apartment, I'm working on it. My mom's lawyer is really good, Natalie. But isn't the apartment yours? Logan, it's marital property. We've been married 25 years. Everything's shared. Don't worry. He was either lying to her or didn't understand the law. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. Then came another message, one that made my heart stop. Logan, I transferred $5,000 to you by something nice. $5,000 from the joint account, our account. He was using my money to fund his mistress. I printed everything, every photo, every text, every bank statement showing he'd transferred over $20,000 to Natalie in 3 months. I brought it all to Rachel. She looked through it, then smiled coldly. This is gold, Camille. Solid gold. With this evidence, he doesn't stand a chance. So what now? I asked. Rachel looked up. Now, she said, we prepare for the performance of your life. 4 days before the party, Marjorie Pierce paid me a visit. She came unannounced, as usual. 3 short knocks, then she let herself in with the spare key Logan Pierce had given her. I was making tea in the kitchen when I heard her voice ring out. Camille, dear, she called, syrupy sweet, the kind of sweetness I'd grown used to for 25 years. It's Mother. Mother. She had never truly seen me as a daughter. For 25 years she still said, dear, but there was always a cold distance in the way she pronounced it, pure social obligation. You're here, I stepped out with a smile. Please sit, I'll pour tea. Marjorie settled onto the sofa, at ease like the owner. Her knife-sharp gaze skimmed the apartment. I knew what she was thinking. Sooner or later, this place would belong to Logan, and by extension, to her. How are preparations for the party? She asked, taking a sip. Logan's handling everything, I said gently. He wants it all to be perfect. I just have to show up exactly, she nodded, satisfied. Logan is very thoughtful. You're very lucky, Camille, lucky. Her favorite word, as if marrying Logan were a favor, a gift I barely deserved. By the way, she set the cup down, voice lowering, I want to talk about the future. You and Logan aren't young anymore. He's 53 and you're 51. I nodded, waiting. I've been thinking about a will, she continued. If anything should happen, I don't want to be morbid, but if it does, where would the assets go? Logan and I haven't written a will, I said. That's the problem. She leaned in, dropping her voice. You know I have 2 nephews, don't you? Marcus and Timothy. They're in college. Good boys. Very promising. They're the future of the Pierce line. The Pierce line. Never Turner. Since you and Logan don't have children, she went on, voice soft, but each word a needle, I think the boys deserve a share of the estate, especially this apartment. I tightened my grip around the teacup and kept smiling. This apartment? Yes. Prime location, high value. If you and Logan separate for any reason, or if anything unfortunate happens, this apartment should be left to the boys. Don't you agree? Separate. She'd said it out loud. No more circling around. Mother, I replied, still mild, this apartment was a gift from my parents before I married Logan. Marjorie chilled. But you've been married 25 years. The law says marital assets are joint property. But this apartment isn't marital property, Mother. It's my separate property. Her face hitched. What are you saying? I'm only stating the truth. I smiled sweetly. But don't worry. Logan and I are very happy. We'll be together till our hair turns white." She studied me. A flicker of doubt flashed in her eyes, then faded. She smiled again. "Of course, dear." She stood. "I'm just thinking ahead. Anyway, the party's coming up. I'm very much looking forward to it." After she left, I sat in silence. My hands were still shaking, not from fear but from anger. They had planned it meticulously, announce the divorce in public, humiliate me, force me to sign away the apartment just to end it quickly. And if I refused, there was a lawyer ready to handle me, but they forgot one thing: I had a lawyer too, and I was prepared. 3 days before the party, I met Rachel Ahmed again at her office. "Camille," she greeted me with a decisive smile. "We have enough evidence." Now we script the night. She opened a file on her computer. "He's going to announce the divorce in front of everyone." "No doubt. And you're going to let him humiliate me?" "Yes. Let him say it all, believing he's won." Then we strike back. She slid a USB drive across the table. "Everything's on this: affair footage, photos, messages, statements. Edited into 5 minutes. Concise, clear, undeniable." I picked up the USB, small but heavy as lead. "The Four Seasons tech team already has the projection system ready," Rachel smiled. "They think it's your anniversary montage. And you'll need a speech?" "Yes. After he announces the divorce, you stand, take the mic, and speak. No pleading, no tears, just the truth." Rachel handed me a draft. "Here's the backbone." I read line by line. When I finished, a strange strength rose within me. "Do I need to memorize it?" "No. Speak from the heart. Just hit the anchors. The apartment is yours. You know about Natalie. You have proof. And you will never surrender what's yours." Rachel stood, resting a hand on my shoulder. "Camille, that night you won't be a victim. You'll be a fighter. I'll be in the crowd, backing you up." "Thank you, Rachel," I choked. "5 years ago you helped me stand." She hugged me. "Now let me fight with you." 2 days before the party, Logan brought home a large gift box. "Here," he beamed, handing it over. "A present for the party." "I want you to wear it that night." I opened the box. A navy evening gown. Beautiful, elegant, but wrong. "Navy?" I asked. "You know I don't like dark tones." "But it fits the event," he said. "Formal, tasteful." "You'll look stunning," I understood. He wanted me in dark colors so that when he announced the divorce, I'd look like I was attending a funeral, the funeral of our marriage. "I'll wear it," I smiled. But in my head, I'll wear it, not to be a victim, but to prove that even in the outfit he chose, I'm still powerful. Do you see it? The betrayers are drunk on victory, the formal dress, mother-in-law's special speech, 80 guests. They think everything's in their hands. But with a single USB, the stage will flip. Stay, because soon you'll witness the pivot that freezes the room. One day before the party, Marcus Holt called. "Mrs. Pierce," his voice was grave. "I have bad news." My heart skipped. "What is it?" "Your husband has debts." Significant ones. 3 loans, $20,000 from Chase Bank, $15,000 from Wells Fargo, and $8,000 from a quick loan company, totaling $43,000. $43,000? I reeled. What did he borrow it for? "Most of it went to Natalie Dean," Marcus said. "Designer bags, travel, jewelry. He's courting her." I dropped into a chair. $43,000 in debt, and he planned to use my assets to plug the hole. "Thank you, Mr. Holt," I said. "This is critical." "In 20 years on the job, I've seen countless affairs," he paused. "Few prepare as thoroughly as you." "I respect that, and I believe you'll win." I hung up and told Rachel immediately. $43,000 in debt, she repeated. "Camille, you understand, right? Under Colorado law, debts incurred during marriage are generally joint, but if we prove the money wasn't for the household, rather to support a mistress, the borrower bears it alone." Meaning he'll have to pay the $43,000 himself. He doesn't get to touch your assets." Rachel smiled. "They're digging their own grave, Camille, digging it deep." That night, Logan came home late. His scent wasn't his. Sharp, sugary jasmine, Natalie's. "Where were you?" I asked lightly, without a hint of suspicion. "Meeting ran long," he dodged. "Get some rest." Big day tomorrow. Big day. For him, freedom, a new life with Natalie, shedding the old wife for the young one. For me, the day I reclaimed my life. I lay staring at the ceiling. Beside me, Logan snored softly, sleeping like a carefree child. He slept well because he thought he'd won, that tomorrow everything would go to plan. He didn't know that while he slept, I was on my phone rereading the speech framework Rachel had drafted. I read it again and again until I had the cadence, until I felt the power in each line. I looked at my wedding ring, the last time I'd wear it as Mrs. Logan Pierce. "Tomorrow," I whispered, "everything changes." The next morning, the day of the party, I rose early. Logan was still asleep. His face looked peaceful, innocent. Hard to believe this was the man about to destroy me in front of 80 people. I went to the bathroom. In the mirror stood a 51-year-old woman, silver at the roots, fine lines at the corners of her eyes, but the eyes, still bright, still steady. "Camille Turner," I said to my reflection, "my name. You won't cry today. Today, you'll fight." My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Ready, warrior?" "I'll be there. Remember, you're stronger than you think." And they're about to find out I smiled, for the first time in 3 weeks, a real smile. I put on the navy gown Logan bought, light makeup, hair in a high bun, pearl earrings, my mother's wedding gift. In the living room, Logan looked at me, eyes briefly lighting up. "You look beautiful," he said. Strangely, there was a flicker of regret in his voice, as if some part of him remembered the woman he once loved. But it was too late. "Thank you," I replied. "Let's go." We shouldn't keep the guests waiting. On the way to the Four Seasons Denver, I gazed outside. Clear autumn sky, golden leaves drifting across the streets. The season of endings and new beginnings. Logan drove, his hands slightly trembling. He was nervous too, but for different reasons. "Are you happy?" he asked suddenly. I turned to him. "Why do you ask?" "No reason," he shook his head. "Just wondering." "You're about to get your answer," I said, "in front of everyone." He didn't understand. He just nodded and kept driving. I, meanwhile, clutched my clutch. Inside it, the USB that held everything, a USB that would change it all. The party was about to begin, and I was ready. The Four Seasons, Denver ballroom glittered like a dream. Crystal chandeliers blazed. Tables were set with cream linens and tall glass vases of white roses. A jazz band played softly in the corner. Everything was perfect, just like a 25th anniversary celebration should be. But I knew the truth. This wasn't an anniversary party. This was an execution. Guests arrived, 80 in all, friends from college, my colleagues, Logan Pierce's colleagues, neighbors. Even my boss, Victor Langford, came with his wife. "Camille," he shook my hand, his smile warm. "Congratulations to you both. 25 years is a wonderful milestone." "Thank you," I smiled. "I'm very glad you're here." Inside, I thought, you're about to witness something you'll never forget. Rachel Ahmed arrived in an elegant black suit. She hugged me, whispering, "The USB is with the tech team." "They're ready. Are you ready?" I nodded. "I'm ready." "Remember," she squeezed my hand, "don't let them see you afraid. Whatever happens, you are the strongest person in this room." Logan stood by the door with his mother, Marjorie Pierce, greeting guests. He wore a sleek black suit, smiling brightly, just like a husband proud of his 25-year marriage. Marjorie wore a burgundy evening gown, diamonds glittering. She laughed gracefully, refined. But when she looked at me, a cold flash flickered in her eyes. She'd been waiting for this moment, the moment she thought she would win. "Camille, dear," she came over to hug me, air-kissing both cheeks. "You look lovely." "I'm so proud of you, proud." From her lips, it sounded like mockery. "Thank you, Mother," I replied. "You look beautiful as well." "Today is special," she said, voice loaded with meaning. "A day none of us will ever forget." "I think so too," I met her gaze. "A day no one will forget." Jocelyn Park arrived with her husband. She hugged me tight, whispering, "I told you. Are you all right?" "I'm all right," I said, "and I'm going to be even better." Jocelyn looked at me, puzzled, but didn't ask more. The party began. Everyone took their seats. Laughter, a low hum of conversation. Champagne was poured. Starters were served. Smoked salmon, tuna salad, everything elegant and flawless. I sat beside Logan at the head table. He held my hand, raised his glass. "To us, my love," he said loudly enough for the whole table to hear. 25 years together. Applause rippled. Congratulations followed. No one knew that in a few minutes, everything would collapse. I looked at Logan. He looked back. For a brief moment, something flickered in his eyes. Hesitation? Guilt? Then he turned away. The moment vanished. After the main course, the MC, one of Logan's friends, stepped onto the small stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," he smiled, "it's time for something special. A few words from our lovely couple." Logan stood, straightened his tie, and walked to the stage. He took the microphone, his smile still bright, though I saw his hand tremble. "Hello, everyone," he began. "Thank you for coming to our 25th anniversary. 25 years is a long road." Polite applause. "In those 25 years," he continued, voice lowering, "we've been through so much. Joy, sorrow, highs and lows. But—" He paused, looked down at me. Here it was. The moment had come. "It's time to be honest," he said, his voice suddenly cold. "With all of you. And with Camille." The room fell dead silent. Forks froze mid-air. All eyes fixed on the stage. Logan drew a breath. "I want a divorce." The words hit like a bomb. A burst of whispers. "What? What did he just say? No way!" I sat still, my heart hammered, but my face remained calm. 25 years is enough," Logan went on, now steadier, as if he'd cleared the hardest part. "I want to start over, with someone younger, someone who can give me what I need. And Camille..." He glanced down at me, eyes ice cold. "You need to move out of the apartment tomorrow." Gasps erupted around the room. A few people shot to their feet. Jocelyn went pale. "Logan, are you insane?" Victor Langford looked at him with visible disgust. "And Marjorie?" She smiled, the smile of victory. She thought the plan had worked. I rose slowly. The room held its breath. 80 pairs of eyes locked on me. They expected me to cry, beg, crumble, but I didn't. I walked to the stage, back straight, each step sure. I stopped beside Logan and held out my hand. "May I borrow the mic?" Logan faltered. He hadn't expected this. He thought I'd run out in tears. What do you want to say?" "I have a right to speak, don't I?" I smiled. After all, this is our anniversary party. He had no choice but to hand me the mic. His hand was shaking. I turned to the crowd. 80 faces, some pitying, some angry, some curious. Rachel, at a back table, gave me a subtle nod. Jocelyn gripped her husband's hand, eyes red. Victor Langford folded his arms, glaring at Logan with loathing. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, calm and clear. "First, thank you for coming. I know this isn't what you expected from an anniversary celebration." A few nods, still stunned. "Logan just said he wants a divorce," I continued, "and that he wants me to move out of the apartment tomorrow." I turned back to Logan. He stood there with his hands in his pockets, trying to look composed, but his eyes were already afraid. "There's just one small problem, Logan," I said lightly. "That apartment isn't yours." "It's mine," Marjorie shot to her feet. "No! That's marital property." "Mrs. Marjorie," I turned to her with a polite smile, "my parents gave me that apartment in 1999, 1 year before I married Logan. Under Colorado law, that makes it my separate property, not marital property." Her face blanched. But, "I have all the documents," I said, "and my attorney is here to confirm." "Rachel, would you stand, please?" Rachel Ahmed stood and raised a hand. "I'm Mrs. Camille Turner's attorney." "I confirm. The apartment is separate property and is not subject to division in a divorce." Whispers rippled through the room. Logan looked at his mother. Marjorie looked at her son. They hadn't seen that detail coming. But that's not all. I turned back to the crowd. "You're probably wondering why Logan suddenly wants a divorce after 25 years, aren't you?" Many heads nodded, eyes fixed on the stage. "Allow me to show you." I signaled the tech team. The big screen behind us flared to life. What appeared made the room cry out. The video opened with a sequence of images. Logan and Natalie Dean at a restaurant. Logan kissing Natalie. The two holding hands at a jewelry store, both walking into the Brown Palace Hotel. Then the messages, clear screenshots. Logan, "Don't worry. The anniversary party is when I'll end it with her. After that, we're free." Natalie, "Do you promise?" "I don't want to be the side woman anymore. I want to be your wife, Logan." "I promise, baby." "And the apartment? I'm handling it. My mom has a great lawyer." Gasps, whispers. Hands flew to mouths. The room boiled. "Bastard!" someone shouted. "He's been cheating on her all along." A woman burst into tears. Victor Langford shot to his feet, shaking his head. "Logan Pierce, I can't believe this." The video continued. This time, bank statements. "And here," I pointed to the screen, "is proof that Logan transferred over $20,000 from our joint account to Natalie Dean. Not household expenses, not investments, funding a mistress." The numbers flashed clear. $2,000, $3,500, $5,000, totaling over $20,000. The room exploded. "Oh my God! Unbelievable! Filthy!" Logan stood petrified, face ashen. He opened his mouth, but no words came. He looked to his mother, for rescue. Marjorie wasn't smiling anymore. She trembled, her face flushed with shame. "And finally," I kept my voice even, "did you know Logan owes $43,000? The screen showed the loans. Chase Bank, $20,000. Wells Fargo, $15,000. A quick loan company, $8,000. $43,000 I knew nothing about," I said. "And what did he borrow it for?" To please a 28-year-old woman, boos and curses rolled through the room. A man slammed his napkin down. "Shameless!" Jocelyn hugged me, crying, "Camille, you're so strong." Rachel stood and clapped, then another, and another. In moments, the whole room was on its feet, applauding not our 25 years of marriage, but me, my courage. Logan struggled to speak. "Camille, let me explain." "No," I cut in, my voice ice. "I've listened to you for 25 years. Now it's your turn to listen to me." I looked straight into his eyes. "You want someone younger? Fine. But you won't take what's mine. You won't take the apartment. You won't take my money. And the $43,000 in debt, you'll pay it yourself." I turned back to the crowd. "Thank you all for coming. I think the party should end here. I'm sorry for what you had to witness." I set the microphone down and walked off the stage. As I passed Logan, he grabbed my hand. "Camille, what have you done?" I looked at him. No anger, no sadness, only calm. "I only protected what's mine, Logan, just like you taught me. In life, you fight for what belongs to you." I pulled my hand free. and walked away without looking back. You think the curtain has fallen? Not yet. When the truth detonates, the fallout begins to cascade: jobs, reputation, family, and the one pulling strings behind the curtain. I walked out of the Four Seasons Denver ballroom in absolute silence. Behind me, the noise still echoed. People shouting at Logan Pierce, Marjorie Pierce trying to explain, chairs scraping as guests hurried out. I didn't look back. I just kept walking down the long corridor, through the revolving door, into the parking lot. The October night in Denver was bitterly cold. My breath turned to white mist. I stopped, leaned my back against the wall, and for the first time all night, I let my body tremble. Not from fear, not from sorrow, but from liberation. I had done it. I had stood before 80 people and defended myself. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I fought. Camille! I turned. Rachel Ahmed was running toward me, Jocelyn Park just behind, both of them out of breath. Are you okay? Rachel gripped my shoulders, looking straight into my eyes. I nodded. I'm okay. I just did something I never thought I could do. You were incredible. Jocelyn hugged me tight, tears falling. Stronger than I can believe. I'm so proud of you. Rachel opened the car door. Get in. I'll drive you home. You shouldn't drive yourself right now. But my car? Jocelyn will come back for it, Rachel said firmly. You need to go home. You need quiet. On the way back, Denver glittered under the streetlights. Houses, cars, the ordinary flow of life. But for me, the world had changed in a single night. Do you regret it? Rachel asked softly, eyes still on the road. No, I answered steady. I don't regret it. I only regret that it had to come to this. You did nothing wrong, Camille, Rachel said. He chose deceit, chose betrayal. You simply chose not to stay silent. We were quiet for a while. Then Rachel went on. Tomorrow, meet me at the office. We'll start the divorce filing. With the evidence we have, it will be straightforward. He has no chance. And the $43,000 debt? Under Colorado law, debts incurred during the marriage are generally joint responsibility, Rachel explained. But if we prove the money wasn't used for the household, if it funded a mistress, the borrower bears it alone. You won't pay a cent, I exhaled. Thank you, Rachel, for everything. 5 years ago, you saved me, she said, voice catching. You lent me money, a place to stay, your faith. Today, we're even. We both knew. This wasn't about settling debts. This was real friendship. When we reached the apartment, I stood on the threshold for a long time before stepping in. This place, 25 years, had held everything: laughter, tears, hope, disappointment. The sofa where we watched Sunday movies, the kitchen where I cooked meals Logan rarely praised, the bedroom where we slept together but hadn't been husband and wife for a long time. I turned on the lights. The apartment was empty, quiet. Logan hadn't come home. He was probably with his mother, or he'd run to Natalie Dean, though after tonight's scandal, I doubted she'd still want him. I went into the bedroom and opened the closet. Logan's clothes were still there, his favorite suit, the ties I'd bought him over the years. Everything stood as if nothing had happened, but everything had changed, completely. I sat on the bed and took off my heels. My feet throbbed. I slipped out of the navy gown, the one Logan wanted me to wear, so I'd look like I was attending the funeral of our marriage. Ironically, it had become the armor I wore to take back control of my life. I looked down at my finger. The gold wedding ring still gleamed. Slowly, I took it off. 25 years wearing it. 25 years believing it symbolized love and commitment. Now I understood. It was only an object. Love and commitment live in action. And Logan, he had betrayed his promise long ago. I set the ring on the vanity. The dry, crisp clink against the wood sounded like the final mark on the last page of an old chapter. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay staring at the ceiling. Beside me, the cold emptiness where Logan used to be. Outside, Denver was still bright. Life went on. The world didn't stop because my marriage ended. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Natalie Dean. Natalie. Ms. Camille, I'm sorry. I didn't know it would go that far. Logan said you two had been separated for a long time, that you agreed to part. I didn't know he was lying to me. I looked at the words, unsure whether to be angry, pity her, or simply exhausted. I replied, Camille, you don't need to apologize to me. Logan is an adult. He chose. So did you. But now you know. Anyone who dares to deceive his wife can deceive you too. Good luck. I sent it, then blocked the number. I had no energy left for resentment. Natalie was only one piece of the story. The more important part was that Logan had chosen. The next morning, a knock at the door woke me. I slipped on a robe and opened it. Logan stood there, wrecked, hair messy, eyes red, clothes rumpled. He hadn't come home last night. Maybe he'd slept in the car, a hotel, anywhere he could hide from the consequences of his own making. Camille, his voice was hoarse. Can I come in? I need to talk. About what? I kept my hand on the latch. Sorry. I want to apologize. I looked at him for a moment, then opened the door. Not to forgive, but because I wanted to hear what he'd say. He walked in, eyes roaming the apartment as if seeing it for the first time. He sat on the sofa, his knees faintly shaking. I was wrong, he began. Completely wrong. I don't know what I was thinking. You do, I said coldly. You made a plan. You Googled how to divorce. You transferred money to your mistress. You prepared to humiliate me in front of 80 people. Don't say you didn't know. Logan lowered his head. You're right. I was stupid, greedy. I thought I could have everything. A stable wife at home and a young lover outside. When Natalie wanted more, I panicked, then came up with that insane plan. And your mother? He sighed. She never liked you from the start. When she found out about Natalie, she encouraged me. She said I deserved someone younger, more beautiful. She said we could take the apartment, but the apartment isn't yours. I know now. He lifted his head, eyes red. Rachel made it very clear. I'm going to lose everything, aren't I? I sat across from him. You'll lose me. You'll lose the apartment. You'll pay the $43,000 yourself. And after last night's scandal, you might lose your job too. He shuddered. My boss called this morning, said they need to reconsider my position. I see, I said, showing no pity. Camille, he sank to his knees in front of me. I know I don't deserve it. But I'm begging you, one chance. I'll cut it off with Natalie. I'll go to counseling. I'll do anything. I looked at the man I had loved for 25 years, the one I once thought I'd grow old with, and I felt empty. No love, no anger, only a void. Logan, I said softly, do you remember our wedding day? You promised to love and cherish me in sickness and in health. I know, but you promised to be faithful. Camille, please. And most importantly, I kept my voice steady. You planned to humiliate me in front of 80 people, to throw me out of my own home. You didn't just break your promise, you tried to destroy me. Logan cried. Tears streamed down his face. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. I believe you're sorry, I replied, but not because you regret what you did, because of the consequences. You're not sorry for betraying me. You're sorry you got caught. He was silent, because he knew I was right. Logan, I stood, I gave you 25 years, the best years of my life. You threw them away for an illusion of youth and novelty. Now I want my life back. So, this is the end? It's over. I nodded. You have 3 days to gather your things and move out. After that, my lawyer will contact yours about the paperwork. He stood, staggering like a drunk man. "Will you hate me forever?" I thought for a moment. No. Hatred is a gift we give to the one who hurt us, to keep them in our minds. I won't give you that gift. Then, what do you feel? "I don't feel anything anymore, Logan," I said honestly. "And that's the saddest part." He left. I stood by the window and watched his figure fade, shoulders hunched, steps slow, like a man who had lost everything. And he had, not because I took it from him, but because he lost it himself. My phone rang. A message from Rachel. "Rachel, are you okay? Do you want me to come over?" Camille, "I'm okay." "Logan just came to apologize. But it's too late, Rachel. You did the right thing. We'll file tomorrow. Then you'll be free." Free. The word felt strange, but sweet. I looked out the window. Denver glowed in the morning sun. Golden leaves carpeted the streets, endings and beginnings woven together. I knew that no matter how hard the road ahead might be, I would be all right. Because for the first time in 25 years, I was no one but myself. Camille Turner. No longer Camille Pierce, and that was the most wonderful thing of all. When one door closes, you realize the handle had been in your hand all along. 3 months after the party, I stood before the Denver County Court. The gray granite building loomed, stern and cold. The steps leading to the main doors felt endless, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I had already gone through the hardest part. Rachel Ahmed stood beside me, arms around a thick case file. "Ready?" "Ready." I nodded. We went in. The courthouse hallway echoed with footsteps and murmurs. Everyone here carried a story: divorces, disputes, pain. Today, it was my turn to close mine. Courtroom 7. Logan Pierce was already seated at the other table with his lawyer, a young public defender, barely 30. No more pricey Hayes and Associates that Marjorie Pierce used to boast about. Maybe they were out of money. Logan turned around. He was gaunt, grayer, hollow-cheeked, wearing a cheap suit. No trace of those Tom Fords from before. Everything about him had changed. I felt no glee, no pity, only acceptance. This was consequence. All rise. Judge Margaret Chen entered, around 60, silver hair in a tidy bun, a stern face behind gold-rimmed glasses. She was known to be fair, but uncompromising. "Be seated." She flipped through the file in a long silence. The only sound was paper. Finally, she looked up. A divorce after 25 years of marriage. No children. Disputed assets, an apartment in Georgetown, a mountain cabin, and a Lexus ES 300. She glanced at Logan. "Mr. Pierce, would you like to speak?" The young lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client acknowledges his mistakes and apologizes for what happened. However, he seeks an equitable division of property." "Equitable?" Judge Chen's brow tightened. "I have reviewed the entire file. Mr. Pierce committed adultery, transferred over $20,000 from a joint account to support his mistress, incurred $43,000 in debt unbeknownst to his wife, and planned what I would call a public humiliation." "And you say equitable?" The lawyer swallowed. "Your Honor, anyone can make mistakes." "True," she nodded, "but not every mistake deserves forgiveness or compensation." "Ms. Ahmed, your presentation." Rachel rose, composed. "Your Honor, first, the M Street, Georgetown apartment is Ms. Camille Turner's separate property, gifted by her parents in 1999, 1 year before the marriage. Here is the documentation." Judge Chen examined it carefully and nodded. "Clear. The apartment is separate property, not subject to division. Next." "Second, Mr. Pierce engaged in a public affair with Ms. Natalie Dean for at least 6 months. We have photos, video, and texts. I've reviewed them," the judge replied. "Cool. Clear and indisputable." Third, Mr. Pierce transferred a total of $23,500 from the joint account to Ms. Dean. Here are the statements. Judge Chen shook her head as she turned the pages. "Regrettable. Lastly, the $43,000 in debt, 3 loans, of which Ms. Turner had no knowledge. The money did not serve the household, but financed an extramarital relationship. The judge turned to Logan. "Do you dispute any of this?" Logan stood, voice hoarse. "No, Your Honor. It's all true. I was wrong. At least you're honest." She tapped her pen, considered, then ruled, "The court orders as follows." The room held its breath. I squeezed Rachel's hand. First, the M Street, Georgetown apartment is the separate property of Ms. Camille Turner and is not to be divided. Ms. Turner retains full ownership. Logan bowed his head. His lawyer set down his pen. Second, the mountain cabin is marital property and will be split equally. Each party receives 50% of the value upon sale. Rachel nodded, exactly as we'd anticipated. Third, the Lexus ES300 will also be divided equally by value. Logan's lawyer jumped up. "Your Honor, my client needs the vehicle to get to work." Denied. The car was purchased with marital funds. Mr. Pierce may buy out Ms. Turner's share or sell and split the proceeds. She looked back at the file. Now, the debt. Logan held his breath. This was the part he feared most. The court finds that the $43,000 debt was incurred during the marriage. By default, marital debt is generally joint responsibility. My chest tightened. No. However, her voice hardened, it has been proven the funds did not serve the family but a personal purpose, specifically an extramarital relationship. Under Colorado family law, Section 39, Mr. Pierce is solely responsible for this debt. Rachel squeezed my hand. We'd won. In addition, due to adultery and financial misuse, Mr. Pierce shall compensate Ms. Turner $23,500, equal to the amount transferred from the joint account to Ms. Dean. Logan blanched. "Your Honor, I don't have the money." "That is your problem. You may pay in installments, but you will pay." She brought down the gavel. "The court dissolves the marriage between Mr. Logan Pierce and Ms. Camille Turner. Ms. Turner keeps the apartment and all bank accounts. Mr. Pierce retains 50% of the cabin's value and 50% of the car's value. No support awarded as there are no minor children." Court is adjourned. The gavel struck. After 25 years, my marriage was officially over. Outside the courthouse, I felt a colossal weight lift from my shoulders. Rachel hugged me. "You did it." "It's all done." "I'm free," I smiled. "Truly free." Behind us, Logan called out, "Camille!" "Wait." I turned. He ran up, breathless. "Could you talk to me for a minute?" Rachel looked at me. I nodded. "Go ahead, Rachel." "I'm fine." She hesitated, then left. Logan stood before me, hands in his pockets, exhausted. "I'm sorry. I know you've heard it 1,000 times, but I want you to know, I truly regret it." "Logan," I said gently, "I don't hold a grudge. We're just different. You want an easy life, living off others. I'm used to fighting for what's mine. I didn't live off you." "You did. You tried to take my apartment, make me shoulder your debt, humiliate me so I'd surrender. That's exploitation." He lowered his head. "You're right. I've lost everything. You lost it yourself. No one took it from you." He clung to a fragile hope. "Maybe someday we can meet as friends?" I shook my head. "No, Logan. We go our separate ways. Your life and mine no longer intersect." He nodded, eyes wet. "Then, goodbye." "Goodbye." I turned and walked down the steps. This time, I didn't look back. When the decree is stamped, the real fallout begins. Reputation, career, family, falling away piece by piece. 1 month after the trial, Logan's life collapsed completely. The party video went viral. The hashtag anniversary betrayal trended. Millions of views, thousands of condemning comments. His Denver financial consulting firm fired him. "Logan Pierce," said his boss, Douglas Crane, on his last day, "I can't keep someone who made a public spectacle." The firm's image is paramount. "But I'm an excellent specialist." "Maybe," Crane said coldly, "but your reputation has hit bottom. No one wants to work with you." He went to interviews. Everywhere he was recognized. "Ah, the guy from the video?" And that was that. In the end, he drove Uber in an old Toyota Camry he bought back from me for $15,000, half its value. Every day, he circled Denver, ferrying passengers, paying off debt, getting by. No luxury apartment, no designer goods, no extravagance. Only a 53-year-old man, tired and regretful. Marjorie didn't fare much better. She sold the downtown villa, the one she'd bragged was better than Camille's little apartment, to pay debts, then moved to a small suburban condo. Logan moved in with her. 1 bedroom. Marjorie took the room. Logan slept on the sofa. "Logan," she sighed every night, staring at a cracked wall, "do you regret not listening to your mother? You shouldn't have gotten involved with Natalie." "Too late, Mom." Logan counted tips after his shift. "Too late for regret." Natalie Dean? She was fine. 2 months after the scandal, she married a 50-year-old restaurateur, wealthy and not too perceptive. He believed her full story about a toxic relationship. Her Instagram overflowed with flowers and gold. Caption: "Finally found true love." #blessed, #new life. Logan looked at the photos and smirked bitterly. Natalie got what she wanted, but not with him. And me? I moved to Miami Beach, into an investment condo owned by Aunt Ruth Turner, my father's sister. A spacious, sun-washed place facing the ocean, an oasis amid the bustle. I didn't want to be an accountant anymore. With Aunt Ruth's inheritance, I opened a small publishing house specializing in European literature and translation. My lifelong dream. "Camille Turner," said my former boss, Victor Langford, when I handed in my resignation, "we don't want to lose you." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure," I smiled. "I've found what I love. I want to live for books. Then good luck. And you know, after the Logan incident, many of your female colleagues admire you. A woman must know how to protect herself." The press had 5 staffers, talented young translators. We published beautiful books in small runs for true lovers of literature. Life was simple: work, read, walk the beach, see friends. And for the first time in years, I felt truly happy. Evening falls over my balcony overlooking Miami Beach. The air is salty. I rest my hands on the railing, listening to the waves. In Denver, one door had closed. Here, another one opened, where Camille Turner no longer has to fight to be loved, but chooses herself to be at peace. 25 years folded into that single clink of a wedding ring set down on a wooden table. The rest of my life opened with the soft rustle of book pages inside a small publishing house, the dream I'd once buried away. If you've stayed until now, perhaps you too are standing at a threshold of your own. Remember this: strength isn't about enduring more, it's about knowing when to stop. Tell me, which moment in this story made you freeze the most? If you were in my place, would you have done anything differently? I read every single comment, because a story only feels complete when it meets your voice. If you believe in stories that empower women, hit like to show your support. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss new stories every week. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder. You deserve truth. You deserve freedom.